What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy Big Stacks with Zingas, PB the Plug, 1/4 through the wire, number one Knicks fan in the world, aka Mr. Know-It-All, and I'm excited to be bringing y'all something y'all been asking for a very long time. This is going to be What Would Big Stacks Do mock draft edition. Now, What Would Big Stacks Do is something I'm going to be doing over the course of this offseason, whether it's looking at teams and free agency and what they should do, whether it's just looking at overall organizations and what would I do if I could run those organizations. And today, we're going to start with what would I do for all 30 teams selected in the first round. I think it's important to put a disclaimer out there that this isn't a mock draft of me guessing what teams are going to do. This isn't me predicting what teams are going to do. This is legitimately just me saying what I would do if I was picking for these teams in the first round. Again, this is something I'm going to reiterate throughout the course of the video so everybody can know, because comprehension level these days are very, very low. And I don't want anybody in the comments telling me, oh, I'm not sure because I read that they were looking to do this, or cool. But this is from the perspective of what would Big Stacks do. Also, an important thing to let you guys know that I'm drafting with all 30 teams in their spots. I'm not going to project or predict or try to guess what trades are going to happen with the Warriors, or where the Celtics are going to move up to, or if the Timberwolves are going to trade down, if the Knicks are going to trade back. That's too much predicting and guessing for me to do. So we're going to keep all 30 picks in place, and we're going to pick with those set in stone, and I'm going to pick with my mindset and if I was running these organizations, and that's just that. So to start this, the Minnesota Timberwolves are officially on the clock for the 2020 NBA Draft, and the first overall pick is going to be Anthony Edwards out of the University of Georgia. Now, for me, it's important to say that Anthony Edwards probably wouldn't be the number one player on my big board. I don't think he's the most talented, but what I will say for the Timberwolves is I think he's the guy that complements them the best as far as what they have. Now, like I said, in real life, they are contemplating trading that pick, and I'm not against it, but only if something out there makes sense. I know the Timberwolves are under tremendous pressure of just having the number one pick in general, but they also have to pick and make decisions based on the fact that they don't have next year's pick. And they're running out of time with Karl-Anthony Towns. And, the West is only getting better with Golden State getting healthier and whatnot. So they have to make some moves. So I understand the fact that they are going to flirt with it. I think it's important for them to be open and aggressive with their pick. But I also think that it's not worth it for them to overthink it. So if there's nothing out there for them to get extremely better, I think they might as well keep it. And you might as well get the guy that can reach his fullest potential with them, and that's Anthony Edwards, a guy that I would compare to Dion Waiters. I think that Dion Waiters is perfect. Victor Oladipo fits in some ways as well, but I think when you talk about the style of play, Dion Waiters to a T. Love the difficult shots. Extremely NBA ready from a body aspect. And a guy that is a scorer. He has that mentality that he's going to score, that he can make any shot that's given to him on the floor, which is a pro and a con, because I think that's his biggest weakness. His biggest weakness is settling for difficult shots when he's as physically built as he is. I don't think there's anybody in the college landscape that he played last year that could stop him from getting to the free throw line if he put his mind to doing that. Now, things like that come with age, come with experience. And comes with coaching and being held accountable of what you're doing. I think he can improve that at the next level. But some of the strength is the fact that he can make some of those tough shots. He can be a bucket. He can score from all three levels. And the fact that when he wants to and when he's fully engaged, he can defend at an above average level when he wants to, which has been rare at the college level. But again, I think that comes with being held accountable, comes with experience, and comes with coaching that hopefully he can get in Minnesota. So I think he's not the guy that you want to be the lead guard, but I think he can thrive and be really successful as a secondary ball handler, which is what he would be next to D'Angelo Russell. I don't think you want him to be out there making all of the team's decisions on a consistent basis, because he's going to have an aggressive scoring mindset. And I think that's what you want from him. So I think at number one, he just makes the most sense of complementing what you have, and you're putting him in a position to where he can reach his fullest potential. I think when you talk about James Wiseman, wouldn't work there with Karl-Anthony Towns. I think when you talk about LaMelo Ball, who probably to me is the most talented prospect in this class, he probably wouldn't reach his fullest potential in the backcourt with D'Angelo Russell, because you want to put the ball in LaMelo hands. You want him to be out there making the decisions, and you know, that's when he's at his best. You don't want LaMelo Ball playing off the ball, spotting up. You know, you D'Angelo Russell can do that occasionally, but you kind of want the ball in D'Lo's hands as well. So I think that's a conflict of interest if you went that route. And then Obi Toppin. Like, Obi Toppin is as good as he is at number 1 with this team. I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see a front court of Karl-Anthony Towns and Obi Toppin working. If I'm being honest, you know, now if they traded down and was able to get somebody on that wing that could defend, I don't know. Even then, it's kind of still something that I don't know if you would want to play with. So I think just staying put and taking Anthony Edwards at that first overall pick would make a lot of sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now with the second pick, the Golden State Warriors would be on the clock. And with them, I would be selecting James Wiseman. Now, it's important to say, like the Timberwolves, they're a team that's going to have a bunch of different options as well, as far as trading down, going out and trying to get somebody else, and swapping picks, like, you know, getting an established wing, whatever they want to get, because the Warriors are in just such a lucrative spot. I just think it's amazing how well positioned they are to bounce back after the season that they had last year due to the injuries or whatever. But I think James Wiseman makes sense. This is a guy from day one is going to be able to screen, rim run, be a vertical lob threat, and then protect the basket at a certain capacity. Like from day one, he's going to do that well. Now, when I look at it from the James Wiseman perspective, I think this could be a place where he can succeed and thrive. But to ultimately reach his unicorn-esque potential that a lot of people think is out there, this may not be the perfect place for him to reach that. I think maybe a place like Charlotte, where there's not a lot of people he would have to fall in line to. There isn't, you know, this all-star cast that he would have to play second fiddle to. He'd probably be able to do more to expand his game. But, hey, with the second pick, you're going to the Warriors. You're going to play a reduced, limited role early on in your career, but you're going to have a chance to play on the big level, big stage, and win out of the gate. Now, that's also a reason why I would expect for them to play with this pick as far as trying to see what they can trade and ultimately making some type of trade. Because what you're going to ask from James Wiseman, you can probably get in the free agent market or get from guys that you already have. Like through the course of this dynasty that the Warriors have put together, we've seen them just throw out fives like Damian Jones, Marquise Chris, JaVale McGee, and who just come in and they just do what they're asked to do. And it's limited and it's worked. So I think that the Warriors might think, why spend a second overall pick on somebody who we're going to ask to do something that we've kind of just had anybody do? So you have to look at that. You know, when I think about James Wiseman, though, in comparisons, I think Mitchell Robinson to a certain level and a certain degree. I think Hassan Whiteside and even some DeAndre Jordan when he was back with the Clippers. But I think the difference in the thing out there, the case, is how well Wiseman will be able to shoot the ball. Because now if he's shooting it at a respectable rate, that changes the entire dynamic. And I don't think any of those guys that I put out there would be suited for him to be compared to. None of those guys have a consistent, respectable outside shot. So that would change the entire landscape of James Wiseman as a prospect. With the third pick, moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, I think LaMelo Ball. You know, when we talked about LaMelo with the Timberwolves, when I was discussing them making Anthony Edwards their selection, we talked about LaMelo not reaching his fullest potential. I think Charlotte at the third overall pick is the team that would give LaMelo that chance to reach his fullest potential. There is nobody there that he would have to fall in line to. There is nobody there that he would have to play second fiddle to. They do have some talented guys, but I don't think any of the guys on that current roster is talented enough for LaMelo to play backseat to. So from day one, you're going to put LaMelo in a situation where he's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to be able to make plays. He's going to be able to take the shots he wants to take. And he's going to be able to play carefree. He's going to be able to make his mistakes because he's going to make them. He's going to make them. He's going to make the mistakes. He's going to have some ugly performances. It's just what it is. It happens at the guard position in the NBA. But this team allows him to make it. It allows him, to make them. It allows him to learn from them. And it allows him to be comfortable and just be himself. They're going to allow him to be LaMelo. And that right there, that comfort level and that chance to be who you are from day one, I think is what got Trae Young to be where he is. I think the Hawks allowing Trae Young to come in and be who Trae Young is, which is taking those long ass threes, playing up and down, making the mistakes, making these type of passes and just playing his game is what allowed him to be a guy that's in his second year, damn near averaging 30 and 10. And that's because they allowed him to play the same way he played when he was in Oklahoma. He led the entire NCAA in points and assists, and kind of damn near almost did the same thing in the second year with the Hawks. I think it's important to allow these type of point guards with these play styles to come in, be themselves, let them make the mistakes, let them learn the mistakes or from the mistakes, and you just let them play with no handcuffs and with an extended leash, and you'll get the product that you've seen with the Mavericks, even with Luka. And then with Trae Young in Atlanta, I think the same thing could happen for LaMelo with Charlotte. Now, some of the things about LaMelo that he would have to work on and grow is his awareness. I think awareness-wise is my biggest thing with LaMelo. Offensively, awareness. I love the flash, and I love the, excitement from it, but everything doesn't have to be around the flash. It's okay to just make a simple bounce pass to the big out of a pick and roll. It doesn't always have to be over the head or no look. It's okay to just make a specific type of little drop down pass. It's okay. And then awareness defensively. There's times in LaMelo's film where you can see him actually be locked in. He's in a defensive position, playing off ball, looking at man and ball. As rare as it happens, it's there. So we see that he's capable of doing it. But a lot of times you'll see LaMelo standing upright. He'll be in this position when he's guarding his man, the ball moves and he stands right up. He'll get too focused looking at the ball, and the next thing you know, he's guarding the man in the corner. The man in the corner is cut 5 seconds ago, and LaMelo's so focused on the ball that he don't even know by the time he looks back. He's like, oh, where's my man? Things like that are going to have to change for LaMelo. And I know that's a young thing, and it can change and be coachable, and it can change through accountability and things like that. So I do expect it to change, but I think it needs to change. If you're the star player of a team, you can't really have those moments. I think we've seen guys like James Harden early on have those moments, but not, and you see them progressively get better and better. Even if you're not being a first-team all-defender, just being average and being accountable and holding your own is very important. And last but not least, I think the shot selection. He's not the shot maker that Anthony Edwards is, but he can take the same level of difficult shots that Anthony Edwards would take. And I think he has to be smarter than that. I've also seen LaMelo play in a way where he's not looking to take a shot that much. He's just looking to be a playmaker, and he's looking to get everybody involved and just play within the flow of the offense. I've seen it. So it's definitely interesting to see what type of LaMelo we're going to get. But I think if he goes to a team like Charlotte that'll just let him be him, star level potential fully. Because LaMelo has one trait that I think every star needs, and it's amnesia. And that's why his jump shot and the inconsistencies in his jump shot doesn't worry me, because he has amnesia. That's something I think Lonzo needed. And hopefully he can learn to get over the course of time, because we saw Lonzo struggle at certain points of his career, and he would be hesitant to shot. He would clearly be overthinking the game. He was struggling from the free throw line, so every time he would get in the paint, he would pass it because he didn't want to get fouled and get put at the line. LaMelo doesn't have that. I don't care if LaMelo is shooting 21% from the three-point line. He's still going to take 8 threes a game. That's just who LaMelo is. He can be 0 for 7 in the game. He's still going to pull up from 40 feet and try to shoot a shot. Like, that's just who he is. And you have to love it about him, because it's important that you have that to reach superstar status in this league. Some of the comparisons that I have for the LaMelo Ball, Jason Williams, nothing that I came up with, is what I've heard throughout the process of this draft thing. And I think it makes perfect sense when you talk about the flashy passes, the long shots, the carelessness at times, the spectacular plays at times, and the lack of awareness at times. I think it's perfect for LaMelo. Also put somebody like D'Angelo Russell out there, a guy that's kind of where I would want to see LaMelo take his game to. Can score out of the pick and roll, can make plays out of the pick and roll, can be your lead guard, can be ball dominant, somebody that you're going to trust to have the ball in his hands the entire game, making decisions for you. And as long as LaMelo's aggressive with his scoring, it'll open up his passing, which we know is his biggest and best trait. Also, somebody like Spencer Dinwiddie, another big, strong, taller guard. Obviously, LaMelo isn't as strong as Spencer Dinwiddie, so he's not going to finish at the rim as good as Spencer Dinwiddie. But I think Spencer is another good, big, tall guard who plays well out of the pick and roll, being aggressive, looking for his shot, but also being able to make the right read out of the PNR. And I think that's where you want LaMelo to be. Now, with the fourth pick, as much as we just spent on the top three, hopefully things can now flow. But the fourth pick is my hometown Chicago Bulls. And if I was the Chicago Bulls at 4, I would be taking Denny over here. Denny is to me one of the perfect prospects for the Bulls. When you think about the Bulls and their team and their young core that they have right now, they're kind of set across all positions except that wing small forward one. They do have Otto Porter there, which they'll be paying him around, $28 million. But I know for a fact he's not a part of their future. When you talk about Wendell, Laurie, Zach, Kobe, Daniel Gafford, probably even Chandler Hutchison, Otto Porter isn't a part of that. So I think you put Denny in there to take his spot as far as the long-term big picture thing, and you have yourself a legitimate core all across the board that you can build with in Chicago. And I think they do have a lot of potential there in Chicago. I think it's just about their health and the development of these guys. And I think Denny complements them. When you think about Kobe White, he's a scoring guard who they did say out of the little mini camp that the Bulls had, he did a better job of being a lead point guard and facilitating and doing things like that. But his biggest strength is always going to be his scoring. And you're going to want Kobe White to be an aggressive scoring point guard because that's when he's at his best. You also look at Zach. Zach is a scorer. He's going to think score first and has that mentality. Laurie Markkinen and Wendell, they're not going to be playmakers in the front court. So I think Denny being your point forward, good decision maker, who's also aggressive and confident enough to take certain shots, I think he's going to be perfect there. At 6'9", he's also going to be versatile as far as defense and transition. He's going to allow them to get down, get up and down, and they're going to be able to run because you'll have Zach on the wing, you'll have Kobe White spotting up, you got Wendell running the floor, Laurie can spot up, Laurie can dive to the rim as well. They're going to be fun and exciting and able to get up and down. Now for some of his comparisons, I have Gordon Hayward. I know his jump shot would have to improve significantly to be Gordon Hayward, but when I think of Gordon Hayward just being this all-around kind of small forward, has a reliable shot. Gordon Hayward has a more than reliable shot, but that's what you would ask for Denny, just to be reliable. Good decision maker and can play with the team. Gordon Hayward, as good as he's always been, and even at all-star level, he's always been very good of just being a part of the team and staying with the team. He's never been a guy where he just has the ISO for 20 seconds. He could just be a part of your offense, make the right decisions and right reads. I think Denny could potentially do the same things. 6'9", versatile on the defensive side of the ball, can guard 2 through 4, which I think Gordon Hayward is doing the same thing now with Boston. And then, transition, just being a ball handler and getting it off the board and going in transition. Another one I have is Danilo Gallinari. I don't know if Denny will be the scorer that he's going to be, but I think when you talk about being a versatile 3 and 4 guy, Denny can fall in line with that. I think now at this stage of Danilo's career, he's just a 4. But earlier in his career, he was a good decision maker. Never blown you away with his assist statistical things, but he's always made the right play and capable of making the right read and then knocking down the shot, which is, like I said, is going to be the biggest deciding factor for Denny. And then last but not least, Nicholas Batum. I think that's one of the perfect ones. We're talking about Nicholas Batum with the Blazers, of course. I don't want you guys to think of current Nicholas Batum, but I think that's more of the realm of what I would see Denny as. A Swiss Army knife, do-it-all, small forward. And I think he can project to shoot the ball a little bit more better. You want Denny to be able to be respectable. A 35 to 36% three-point shooter would be extremely perfect and would solidify Denny in that Chicago Bulls core. Now the next pick, the 5th overall pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would take and select Obi Toppin. Now I know a lot of people are going to be like, man, why? His defensive question marks and the Cavs are so bad defensively, and like I said earlier, or I don't even know if I said it earlier, but there's not for teams like the Cavaliers, for teams like the Pistons, for teams like my Knicks. There's just not going to be a guy out there that's going to fill all of the holes. So I think you have to keep that in consideration when you're making these draft picks. And I think Obi Toppin though he doesn't fill the defensive hole, he does cover a lot of different holes for them. I think the Cavs thus far has invested a lot into the guard position on their team. You talk about Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, Kevin Porter Jr. They've invested a lot into the guard position over the past few years from a draft aspect. So I think getting them a guy like Obi Toppin who they can work with out of a pick and roll, whether it's pick and pops, whether he's being a vertical lob threat, even in transition, he's going to be a guy that's going to run the floor hard, be athletic, kind of like Aaron Gordon, a modern Amari Stoudemire, and John Collins. Those are my comparisons for him. And I think all of those guys complemented the guards that they played with. He won't be as good as Aaron Gordon defensively, but I think he's going to be one of the most NBA-ready guys from day one. He's probably going to be able to lead them in scoring in his rookie season. You talk about getting in transition. He's going to be able to score 8 to 10 points in transition. Literally, he's going to outrun a lot of guys that are guarding him up and down the floor. The vertical lob threat. He's going to be able to, put backs and things like that. He's going to score a lot of easy buckets. Then, his ability to get to the free throw line and shoot free throws at a nice rate, I think, is also going to help him out at points. And then, the potential three-point shot could help him. So I think he's going to be able to score from the get-go, and I think that's going to open up the game for guys like Darius Garland. Pick and roll play is going to be important for a guy like Darius Garland. And I think that's something extraordinary for the Cavs. I just can't see them taking a Okongwu because the Andre Drummond situation, which is yet to be handled. But we will see the closer we get to the draft what's that about. But I would take Obi Toppin. I think Isaac Okoro, as good as he is defensively, I think he's somewhat a project. And it would be tough. It's more safer for the Cavs to take Toppin. Because you might, as much as I like Okoro, and I think he is the best defender in his class, you have to also look at the potential of him being in that Stanley Johnson type thing. Like, if I'm the Cavs, I don't know if I'm willing to waste this pick on somebody who could potentially just be all defense. Because if that jump shot never comes about, it's going to be tough for the Cavs with Isaac Okoro. Some other teams, they may be able to take that risk on Isaac Okoro. But for the Cavs, they kind of need to make sure that this pick, even if it doesn't hit superstar status, even if it isn't a home run, it needs to at least be solid and good. They can't afford to take any risk, in my opinion, because they have so many holes. I think getting Toppin allows Kevin Love to now be expandable. You can move him and do whatever you want to do. Get some other young pieces back. Get another pick. I don't know, but you can move on from that, and you can now have a nice young core of Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Kevin Porter Jr., Obi Toppin, Cedi Osman is a part of that still. Dylan Windler, who we didn't get to see a lot of, but I still think highly of him as a shooter. And you can start to move forward with that and then come back next year in a more top-heavy draft, because they'll be right back in the lottery. They'll be right back in the lottery without a doubt. And then continue to add to that young core and surround them with, make this young core good surrounding pieces for when you do land your star. Maybe next year is the year that you get the number one pick and you get the guy who's the star, and now you have a team of guys who can complement him, or maybe a trade. I don't know. However you get your star guy, draft good basketball players that at least, even if they don't become superstars, can be good complementary players to whoever your star ends up being. Now for the 6th overall pick, the Atlanta Hawks are on the clock, and for them I select Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State. Now, the reason I select Tyrese Halliburton is because I think he complements this team better than anybody else in this draft class. I think when you think about him being in the 99th percentile in spot-up shooting, the 98th percentile in catch and shoot, it's going to be perfect to put him next to Trae Young. I think as a backcourt mate, he's perfect as can be for Trae Young. He's going to be a guy that can thrive as secondary ball handler. A lot of question marks about if he can be your lead ball handler and how much he can run a pick and roll offense, which I think are great questions to ask. But if you're taking him out of that situation and you're making him a guy who can be your secondary ball handler to take some pressure at times and throughout the course of the game off of Trae Young, or if Trae Young is on the bench, he can then run your offense then for a short amount of time. But on the court with him, spotting up, shooting as well as he has in college, but like I said, 99th percentile spot up shooting, 98th percentile catch and shoot. It's perfect. It's going to complement the hell out of Trae Young. And then his defensive versatility, being able to guard probably 1 through 3, and depending on who you're playing, 1 through 4 is going to be perfect. And you also put him in a situation where he's going to be guarding with Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter. I think that's going to be brilliant, and it just gives you another piece to this puzzle that they've been putting together. A guy that's going to be very versatile and shoot the ball as well as he does, and has a high IQ. I think it's just perfect. I think this makes the most sense for me with the Atlanta Hawks. Guys that I compare him to, Lonzo Ball, because his finishing is questionable. But I think the all-around game, and he obviously projects to be a better shooter than Lonzo. I also threw out the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, where, again, Shai was like the lead point guard at times for the Clippers, but he excelled very, very well next to Chris Paul, which is kind of how you would play Tyrese next to Trey. And I think, like I said, I think that's one of the best picks that they can make for 6 in Atlanta. Now, the 7th overall pick is going to the Detroit Pistons. So, with the Detroit Pistons, I would be selecting Killian Hayes. I think this is a no-brainer. Out there in Detroit, they don't have anything, really. They don't have anything going for them. Picking Killian Hayes allows him to be your lead guard. It's the same thing, like I said, about LaMelo. You're going to allow him to just be him, make his mistakes, and learn from him on the go. And then it allows you to make Derrick Rose expandable, which is a it's a no-brainer at this point. He's going to go into the last year of his deal. You trade him to a contending team like the Lakers. You get back a Kuzma or something like that. You now could have a core of Killian Hayes, Luke Kennard, Sekou, and the Kuzma. And then if you're able to bring back Christian Wood, that's even better. But I think Detroit they need to start building a core. You know what I mean? Blake Griffin won't be a part of it. As much as I love Blake Griffin, they should be looking to move him if it's possible. But I think if you take Blake Griffin out of the picture, you take Derrick Rose out of the picture, and you just look at Killian Hayes, Luke Kennard, Sekou, possibly Christian Wood if you can bring him back, and then whoever you can get for Derrick Rose, like Kuzma, that would be a nice start. And again, like the Cavs, they'll be a team. They're going to be back in the lottery next year. So you just want to start to put together a core of some guys who are going to be solid, good basketball players. So when you do potentially get your hands on your star throughout the draft, the next couple years of the draft, you have, a solid core that you're adding him into, instead of, putting together around players who aren't going to even be around. I think Killian Hayes is safe. He's a guy that I would compare to Goran Dragic, and some D'Angelo Russell. I think he's aggressive. I think he plays with his left a lot, but that's fine. If it works, it works. Has some flash in his games, not a lot of passes that he can't make, and he's developing that step back, which is why I put Goran Dragic in there, because Dragic has shown that his step back is a little nasty. So, like any other young point guard, you want him to be, as aware as he can be on the defensive end, and there's always going to be room for young guys in that aspect. And then just his scoring and his shooting. He shot the ball not the best, but it looks like he'll be able to be a better shooter than what he showed. So I think at 7, to be honest with you, for the Pistons at 7, Killian Hayes is a steal. I think it's a no-brainer, and I think it's a big-time steal for them at that 7 spot. Now, for my Knicks at 8, I think this one is going to surprise people. But at 8, for the New York Knicks, I'll be selecting Patrick Williams. I know a lot of people are talking about Isaac Okoro. A lot of people are talking about Devin Vassell. Nick Nation, we're in love with Kyra Lewis at that point guard spot. But if I was the Knicks at 8 and without any trades happening, I would take a chance at Patrick Williams. Now, I expect the Knicks to play it a lot safer than Patrick Williams. Whether it's trading back or just taking somebody like Devin Vassell, like a safe pick, I fully expect that from them. But I would take Patrick Williams for a bunch of reasons. I think Patrick Williams has the potential to do some great things. I think he has the potential to be a very, very winning player in the NBA. He just does a lot of winning things. I think from day one, he's going to come in with an NBA body at 6'7", 225, 32% from 3. Definitely want to see him get better and consistent from 3, but I think his stuff is just going to be reps and opportunity. But everything as far as his shot looks very good as far as catch and shooting. Shot the ball very well from the free throw line, 84%. He only averaged, like, when you look at his numbers in college, he only averaged like 9 points, 4 rebounds. But that's just how their team was ran. Nobody really shot the ball. You know, he came off the bench. Devin Vassell, one of the most sought after prospects in his class, only averaged 12 points there. They just had that type of offense. But defensively, Patrick Williams is going to be a monster. And I think when you talk about going forward in the NBA, especially the Eastern Conference, when you see all of these wings that they have who's scoring the ball and doing different things, having a guy that you can say he's going to guard your team's best player is something that every team needs. And I think Patrick Williams is that guy. I think he still complements Mitch and RJ because, like I said, he has the shooting potential at 32%. If we can have him shooting 35% from three, he shoots well above 80 from the free throw line. He's going to be able to get to the free throw line with his size and his physicality. I think you have a guy who's going to be very, very good. My comparisons are Kawhi Leonard. Now, obviously, when I say comparison, it's in the mold. I'm not saying he's going to project to be Kawhi, be this defensive player of the year or multiple-time finals MVP or anything like that. But just his physical tools, his size, his strength, he's in that mold of Kawhi Leonard. And if you pair him with a guy like Thibodeau from day one, when Thibodeau gets certain guys from day one, he's done a very good job of, developing them with that defensive mindset that he has. And then, if you can grow him offensively any bit, any way you can grow him offensively, it just makes his ceiling and his potential that much higher. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be capable of catching, shooting, and then, the more and more people respect his shot and have to close out on him because RJ Barrett is going to be going downhill, the more he'll be able to open up and expand his game, going from just catching and shooting to catch, pump fake or jab and one dribble pull up. He has some of that in his game as well from day one, but he'll have to work on that. I think he's an extremely good decision maker out of the pick and roll. Not a guy that you're going to have run your offense, but when you've had a couple of different looks and now Patrick Williams is coming and working off the pick and roll because you're going to have Mitch Robinson be involved throughout the course of the game. He's going to set a lot of picks. Patrick Williams can be trusted to make a lot of decisions. Not a guy that you're going to have playing ISO, but he's going to fall right in line with the offense and complement a guy like RJ and Mitch and whoever the point guard is. I love Patrick Williams, and I think a team is going to get a steal when they get this guy. My other comparisons are Paul Millsap. We talk about Paul Millsap being a winning player, just doing a lot of winning, tangible things. I think that's what Patrick Williams has the potential to do. Has the potential to shoot the three ball very, very well and respectable. And I mean really, really well in the sense of a 3 to 4 position. Getting to the free throw line. You know what I mean? Playing inside, playing out. Defensively, we always rave about Paul Millsap, and that's why he's been a part of really good teams. That Utah Jazz team that used to have playoff runs with Darren Williams and Boozer. We talk about the Atlanta Hawk team that Paul Millsap was on. We talk about this Nuggets team that Paul Millsap is on now. Patrick Williams can be that type of winning player, in my opinion. He's going to be very, very, very good. And if I was the Knicks, I would just have to take the chance. I would just have to, man. That's one of my favorite prospects in this entire draft class, Patrick Williams. Also, but compare him a little bit to Marcus Morris. I think he can expand his game to that level of on the offensive side of Marcus Morris with already his defensive upside. I see a lot of his clips and just his mannerisms and the way he just approaches the game reminds me so much of an early Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio coming out of Fresno State. Next pick, because I don't want to spend too much time on my Knicks. I will. At 9, we have the Wizards, the Washington Wizards. And for the Wizards, I think it's easy. I think you're taking a Okongwu at 9 out of USC. 6'9", 245. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Troy Brown Jr., who I think doesn't get a lot of credit, on the wing for the Washington Wizards, kind of a point forward. I like his game a lot. Also, Rui Hachimura, Thomas Bryant, the chance of bringing back Davis Bertans. They have something going on in Washington. No matter how much John Wall doesn't have to come back at all-star level, in my opinion. Bradley Beal has shown that he's the best player there. If John Wall can just be, a very good point guard, I think they have a nice little thing that they got going on over there. And if you bring a Okongwu in, Thomas Bryant's position at center is very replaceable if you're bringing in a guy like a Okongwu. And you add him to what they have, so you would then have Wall, Beal, Troy Brown Jr., Rui Hachimura, Okongwu, and off the bench, you could bring a Davis Bertans and a Thomas Bryant in the mix. I think the Wizards have something going on there. And I think at 9, this is a steal. When I was putting this together, I couldn't believe that Okongwu fell to 9. But I mean, when you think about all the selections, it's not that far-fetched. It's a guy that I would compare to Bam and Al Horford. I'm talking about a high IQ guy, going to rebound the ball well. The defensive potential is there. Like every other kid in this draft, a lot of the things that he has to work on is just going to come from experience and just reps and just being held accountable and being part of a professional team. But I think the success of Bam made his stock go all the way up because he shows that he can do a lot of different things that Bam did. Now, as far as being that point forward and running the offense through him, it's yet to be seen. But we didn't really see that from Bam in Kentucky. But if you work on that with him from day one, if you show him a lot of Bam and you mold him into that type, I think he can do it. He's that smart of a player, and I think his ceiling is extremely high. And if you put him in a situation where he is playing with Bradley Beal and Davis Bertans and Rui Hachimura, I think you could play him in a situation where he could play that Bam role for a team like the Wizards. I think this would be a hell of a draft pick for the Wizards at 9. The Wizards would have to walk out of that draft feeling extremely excited about themselves, if I'm being honest. Moving on to 10. With the 10th overall pick, the Phoenix Suns, Tyrell Terry. I mean, Tyrell Terry, I love him as much as I love Patrick Williams. He's another guy that I'm extremely high on, and I'm extremely confident in and being a really good NBA player. I think at 10, you put him in a situation where he can be in that backcourt with Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns can be extremely, extremely good. They can have their own little version of the Splash Brothers. Tyrell Terry is a guy that broke the IQ test and record in draft meeting or combine or whatever it was at. He did that at. Can shoot the ball, extremely intelligent, and when you talk about the 7-month break, 8-month break that a lot of these prospects has, he's the one who's kind of benefited the most from it. He's 6'3" now. He's put on about 20 pounds of muscle, so he's NBA ready. And I think when you talk about the Suns, Devin Vassell and Isaac Okoro are right now still on a board, but they have Oubre, they have Cam Johnson, they have Mikal Bridges, they have Booker, and then they have Aiden, so they're not going to go big or go. So I think Tyrell Terry, Ricky Rubio, Javon Carter. Ricky Rubio, I don't know how much you can, would want to put him a part of the youth thing, even though you have him for a couple years. Bringing Tyrell Terry in, who was a fan of Ricky Rubio because he's from Minnesota, it makes the most sense. And I think you could put something together there. And some comparisons that I have for him, Seth Curry, a better version of Patty Mills, and then in the mold of Trae Young and Steph Curry. He's going to be a part of that tree, taking a lot of threes, pick and roll, making the right decisions, and letting it ride from deep out. Now at 11 is where we finally get Isaac Okoro off the boards. I think Spurs. It's the Spurs pick. The Spurs always find a way somehow to get these guys like Isaac Okoro. And we like, how did the Spurs end up with this guy? But here it is again. I think, a lot of people put the Kawhi thing out there with Isaac Okoro because how good he is defensively. I wouldn't go that far. I'm more into the Jimmy Butler, Justice Winslow type comparison for him. Underrated playmaker. The stats don't show it, but you have to watch the film. Extremely aggressive going towards the basket, which is where I put the Jimmy Butler stuff in with the playmaking. And then defensively, he's the best defender in the class, in my opinion, as far as perimeter one-on-one defense. He's just out of this world. I mean, he's coming in at 6'6", 225, NBA ready, and I think when you put him with Popovich, you put him with DeJounte Murray, the Spurs could have something there. Definitely going to have to work on that jump shot. I think the jump shot is the make or break because we've seen over the history of the last few years of the drafts, we've seen guys who have defensive upside not really even do anything in the NBA because that jump shot or their offensive ability just isn't there. When you think of guys like Stanley Johnson, you think of like Josh Jackson, you think of like Chris Dunn, like the jump shot is important. It's extremely, extremely, extremely important. And I think that's going to be the make or break part for Isaac Okoro. At 12, we have the Sacramento Kings. And for the Kings, it's the same way with the Spurs. I think they would walk out extremely happy because they would be taking Devin Vassell. There's nobody who would tell you that they expect Devin Vassell to still be available at 12. I don't know how he ended up at 12 on my thing, but here he is at 12. And I think if the Kings somehow walked out of the draft with Devin Vassell at 12, it would be amazing. I think this is the perfect type of pick that the Kings could make. They probably, even if it was possible, they probably would still find a way to mess this up. They probably would go somewhere else. But Devin Vassell, when you think about Fox going downhill, you think about they already have Bagley. They have Barnes that they're going to be playing because they pay him so much. Vassell as a 3-and-D wing, sliding right in, makes much sense. You're probably going to move on from Buddy Hield. You're probably going to bring back Bogdanovich, and then you just slide Devin Vassell right there in the 3-and-D wing, complimenting everybody and kind of being that part that brings everything together for that team. Comparisons: Mikal Bridges, Otto Porter in Washington, and then depending on his offensive development, Chris Middleton. I mean, if he can add the offensive parts to his game, I think it's some very, 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 very similar pieces to what Chris Middleton does in Milwaukee. Now at 13 for the New Orleans Pelicans, I would be selecting Aaron Naismith. Shooting is what Stan Van Gundy is going to want to put around Zion. When we see what he did for the Magic, when we see what he was trying to do for Detroit, Stan Van Gundy has a bunch of emphasis on shooting. And you have J.J. Redick already. Brandon Ingram is a scorer. Lonzo improved as a shooter. So I think Aaron Naismith is a guy that they're going to want to put around Zion for shooting purposes. I also like Jalen Smith from Maryland, but if I'm just going off the top of my mind as far as them already having Jackson Hayes, they don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Derek Favors, and then the fact that you have Zion that I'm sure they're going to want to just surround with shooters. Aaron Naismith just makes the perfect example. He's going to be a guy that can potentially hold his own on the defensive end. Not going to be anybody that's locking anybody down or anything. I think he can, has an NBA body at 6'6", 213. He's going to be able to hold his own. The shooting is just phenomenal. We're talking about a guy who was shooting 52% from three before he got hurt. It's just unheard of. So I would compare him to like a Buddy Hield, Joe Harris, even Duncan Robinson. When you talk about shooting, if he can shoot or translate his shooting that well in the NBA and he goes to the Pelicans, I mean, it's perfect. If you have a situation where he's out there on the floor with J.J. Redick and you have Zion playing like a small ball five or something, the Pelicans are going to be crazy. Are going to be very, very dangerous and crazy. But if I'm knowing with Stan Van Gundy and I'm the GM and I know what he wants to do, I'm looking at us taking Aaron Naismith at 13. Now 14 is where Jalen Smith will fall. The Celtics would never in a million years pass up on Jalen Smith. This is gold, and this is why Danny Ainge gets the love and credit that he does, because they're now in a situation where they would be adding Jalen Smith to what they already have. And when you talk about his rim protection and his shooting ability, I don't even care about the rest of the weaknesses that Jalen Smith has. When you talk about him going to the Celtics, it's going to be an upgrade to what they have. And the comparisons for y'all that don't know Jalen Smith, you're talking about a Miles Turner, what we thought Mo Bamba could potentially be, even Chris Boucher. Like, imagine the Celtics having any of those guys right now. And you talk about Jalen Smith coming in being a high motor, and I love the way he shoots the ball. And you add that with Tatum, Brown, Kemba, Marcus Smart, he's going to be tremendous with them. So that's a no-brainer. I don't even have much to say, because I just think the idea, like, even if he kind of plays under what we would expect, I think he's still solid right there when you talk about Celtics. A lot of these guys, in my opinion, it's about fit and where they go. And I think if you're talking about Jalen Smith going 14 to the Celtics, beautiful. And last but not least, we'll go first 15 picks in this video. The Orlando Magic are taking Kira Lewis. Kira Lewis' stock is rising, and I would project for him to go somewhat earlier. But again, since we can't project the trades that are going to happen, since we can't guess the trades that are going to happen, as of everything staying where it is, I would have him going 15th to the Magic. As good as Markelle has shown he can be, he still hasn't solidified himself as their sure point guard. So I think Kira Lewis makes the most sense. I would compare him to Dennis Schroeder, a little bit of Reggie Jackson, and then in that mold of De'Aaron Fox, John Wall. Again, I'm not projecting him to be as good as them, but just that mold. He's going to be super fast, getting up and down. I like his shot off of the pick and roll. Did a good job of making adjustments on shooting when guys were going under, because he can make that shot. And I think with the Magic, he'd be a good piece. Putting him in the pick and roll with Vucevic, putting him around, Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, Depending on what they want to do with Aaron Gordon, he would be a lob that they're out of the pick and roll, and then Jonathan Isaac can be a pick and pop type guy, and I think he would flourish there, and I think you would have a nice little competition at point guard with him and Markelle for the Magic to actually finally find who their point guard of the future is going to be. I think that's just a position that they've struggled to find there. They tried with Elfrid Payton. They tried, obviously, with Markelle. That was them taking a risk and trying to make that happen. And over the course of the past few seasons, we've seen them kind of make it work with an aging DJ Augustine. So bringing in Kyra Lewis, I think, could help them figure it out. But that's a wrap. Hopefully you guys like part 1 of this. Part 2 is going to come very, very soon after, where we do the rest of the first round. Let me know your feedback. Let me know what you guys would do for some of these picks if I talked about your favorite team or whatnot. If not, then we'll talk about your favorite team, I'm sure, in the next 15 picks. But definitely let me know your opinions, what you would do for any of these guys. If there's any guys that you're extremely high on, who's some of your favorite prospects? Who are some guys that you say, I think that guy may be a little bit overrated? What's some things that you think some of these teams should do? Definitely give me the feedback. Leave a like. If you're new, subscribe. Big Stacks Porzingis. I'm out.